Welcome, lovelies, to the Ultimate Dance Business Podcast. My name is Deborah Laws, the dance business expert. My passion is to help you turn your passion into profit while guiding you to work less and earn more. I'm super excited to share interviews with you that I know will inspire and motivate you in your schools, as well as my solo shows where I shall be sharing some great tips and strategies. So if you love the show, please do remember to review, subscribe, and share it with your fellow dance boss friends. So let's get stuck into the business of dance. Everybody, I cannot tell you how thrilled I am to have my beautiful business coach with us today, Dani Wallace.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I was so excited when you asked me to come and record the podcast with you, because we've had lots of conversations, and knowing about you and your audience, I was just so excited to get onto this podcast and chat.
Yeah. And, one of the things I try and do before I start my interviews, I don't know whether my listeners know this, is I try and kind of almost connect with the person's energy that's coming in, because I know some people are very soft and gentle and other people have high energies, and it's quite hysterical because the very first interview I did with Mike McAllerich, who wrote Profit First, and he is crazy American dude, and so I was jumping around my office before I started trying to get into his energy. And so this morning I was like, how do I even begin to get into a Dani Wallace energy? I feel like that there's only one Dani Wallace.
I think because it's such an interesting mix of energy as well. So there's the high energy side of me, and there's also quite a grounded thing going on as well. So it's an interesting old mix I got going on, girl.
You are definitely an interesting mix. I think we can say that for sure. Now, a lot of people in my audience won't know you, Dani. So would you mind just explaining to people what it is that you do?
Absolutely. So when I walk into rooms, I tend to declare myself self-royalty. So my name is Dani Wallace and I am the Queen Bee. I'm an international celebrity public speaking coach. That's my first job. And I also have a CIC whereby I help people who've experienced domestic abuse build businesses. So there's two hats that I wear when I'm in the business space. So one is helping people take up space, whether they've been holding themselves back through self-sabotage or if they've experienced adversity. My MO is to help people practically to take up space in the world, to share their mission, their business, their message, so that they can reach more people, have more impact, generate more income, because that's kind of a byproduct when you have a business, if you're an entrepreneur. And then helping, I found myself in a position where I'd experienced homelessness and domestic abuse, and I swore if ever I was to make a success of myself, I'd spend and dedicate the rest of my life to helping other people who've experienced similar.
Which is just so incredible. One of the things I feel very strongly about, and similar to you, is helping people to find that sweet spot, to find that thing they were put on this planet to do. And I feel like, your success is crazy, and it just seems to be running at your train is on 100 miles an hour at the moment. I feel I'm an outsider, and obviously, I'm not closely involved with everything that you're doing yet, but
we're on our way.
We're on our way. But it feels like you're on such almost how can I explain it? But it's like you're doing the thing you were put here to do. And because that is helping and serving and being there for other people, the success is happening with so much momentum and flow.
I think that's the key right there, Deb, is that when you truly, or people talk about this and it feels really glib, when you step into your purpose, when you actually understand and you are viscerally connected to it, and then you attach an intentional plan of action, when you surround yourself with great people, and I'm sure we'll talk about this over the course of the conversation today, when you truly find joy in what it is that you do, it doesn't feel like work, so it's easier to do. When you're surrounded by great people, it's easier to be supported to do the things that you want to do. And when you are really connected, you just can't help it. It's almost like it almost happens by default when you make the decision that this is the thing that I'm here for. This is the impact that I'm going to have in the world. There's this quote, leave the world in a better position in some way, shape or form. I'm paraphrasing, in some way, shape or form than when you found it. I definitely know that is within this space, creating, safe spaces to have conversations that matter through my speaking work, helping people who've experienced domestic abuse get their financial freedom back, their self-esteem back. That's a real legacy. I can't help but get out of bed for that. That feels important work for me. And to know that I'm skilled in those areas means that I'm putting the gifts that I've got to incredible use. And the people that are listening along to the podcast, especially being in the education environment, especially for those people that are teaching kids, the disciplines of dance, for example, the incredible ability to perform, to be able to be outside of yourself, to be able to connect. I find the parallels run really, really similar.
Yeah. And that's really why I wanted you to come on. That's why I was so thrilled when you agreed, because I feel like we've got so much we can talk about that is relevant to my audience. And what you were saying there actually really did describe 99% of my clients and my listeners in terms of, they also have a purpose. They were put here to teach the art of dance and to gift the world, humanity, with all the wonderful benefits that dance can bring to people. And that's an interesting vehicle, if you like, for teaching, because at the end of the day, you're a teacher, I'm a teacher, they're all teachers. Like, we're here to serve, albeit through different ways. I have an interesting question for you, because what you're doing is it feels incredibly important from a humanity point of view. When you're dealing, not just helping people like me that are business people that want to get better at speaking on stage, but you're also, helping a lot of people that have been through some really tough stuff, some really tough past sort of traumas. And so when it's very much something that feels right and good, it's very difficult to then put a business head on and say, I'm doing this also for money. Like, I'm going to do all this not for free. I'm doing this. In fact, I came and asked you, and I loved this so much about you. I came and spoke to you and asked about the potential of you coming to speak at my conference. And I said, I'm really sorry, it's not a paid speaking gig at the moment. It's a new thing. And you were like, I'd love to do that, but this is my job. And I was like, I so respected that you were able to say, yes, I'm here. This is what I'm doing for the world, but it's also my job. Now, I have a lot of dance studio owners that give ridiculous amounts of hours for free, or really not valuing their worth in terms of what they charge. How can you help them? Because they're like, but we're dance. It's the arts. Like, how do we charge good? And I'm talking good charge, like proper charging, proper fees of what they're worth, when it's their passion and they just feel like they want to do good for the world. That was a really long question. I'm sorry.
It's not, no, but it's a really great question, because I wish that I could do what I do every day and do it for free. I wish I could. I wish I'd, be able to reach more people. Here's the thing, that I have a family to feed. I have myself to feed. I have a mortgage to pay, and I have a finite amount of hours in the day, right? When we charge our worth, we turn up a little bit differently. And when we truly believe in it, because I think the first time I started to charge a little bit more, that it's quite expensive to work with me one-to-one, right? And the reason why it's expensive is that the time that I have, I will never, ever, ever in a million years get back. I just will never get it back. It's the one of the things that we can spend, but we can't get back. So when I'm spending that time away from my family and away from life, then I feel like having that energetic exchange is fair. If someone's getting your time, it's the most expensive thing that they can give you. If they're giving you their time plus their expertise, think about the amount of value that sits within that. And also, something really interesting happens when there's an energetic exchange. And we've got to think about money as energy, is that when you are being paid for something, you turn up a little differently. You turn up a little stronger. You turn up with a little more intention in mind, because there's that exchange going on. There's this exchange of value. And also, when people are investing their money in you in exchange for your time and your expertise, they turn up a little differently. So what I was finding is, right at the very beginning, I was, I was charging peanuts or sometimes for free, like to establish my client base and what have you. I was trying to help people for free. And when I was trying to help people for free, they were showing up half-assed. And I was resenting the fact that they were doing that. I was getting angry at them. I was like, if you just did what I told you to do, then it would be so much easier for you. You would be seeing the benefits. But because there wasn't a fair energetic exchange, they were just in receipt and they were actually in take. And I was in give, there was a major imbalance. Whereas if there is a flow of energy between both client and provider, it just feels healthier. I think that's the thing in the first instance. Also, what was really interesting was the shift in mindset for me right at the beginning was that safety and security for me was really, really important in the first instance. I really wanted to set up the Flying Away Foundation as the first port of call. I wanted to help people who couldn't have access to business coaching, but I could not provide that until I'd provided safety, security, and success in an aspect of my life. So the speaking business was the thing that I focused on first, with always the intention to give back through the Flying Away Foundation once I'd created safety, security, and success in that area. What that did is it allowed me the bandwidth and the foundation and the finances to then think, okay, how can I help now? Now that I have this breathing space, now that I have this incredible team that work around me, now that I have a business that kind of runs like a well-oiled machine, brilliant. Now, how can I help? Because when I'm in a position where I'm not earning a lot of money, I'm too worried about my rent. I'm too worried about the food bill to possibly be thinking, how do I build a strong and successful business centered around the giving of my time? You can't.
Yeah.
So it was a two-tiered thought process. One is, if I create safety, security, and success for myself here, that is going to then allow me to do the real help work on the other side. And once you kind of flip that switch, it suddenly becomes easier to charge, right?
Oh my gosh, I love this so much. And particularly because, I'm relating this to how this works for my listeners. I can't tell you how many times we come across these gorgeous kids that just want to dance, and maybe the parents are struggling financially, maybe they fall upon hard times after signing them up for all these classes, and the number of us that just want to be able to turn around and say, do you know what, come for free for now until things are better, or I'll gift you some classes, just pay for these two. And it's something that we all really struggle with, especially when you get kids that are really passionate. They don't have to be good. They just have to really want to do it, and they're committed and passionate. And then something happens and they can no longer come. It's out of your hands. And you just want to say, just come for free, because that's who we are. We're all nurturers and carers. But what I'm loving about what you just said is, some people say to me sometimes, how could I set up a scholarship? What could I do to help for families that fall on hard times? And a lot of the time they can't, because they don't have the resources. They can't afford to let anyone come for free, because they're barely breaking even or making any money themselves in the first instance. Their business isn't strong enough and healthy enough to be able to have a sponsorship scheme.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we do this within IATQB. So with our speaker cohorts, there are always one or two sponsored positions where the business actually pays for somebody to go through the process. For somebody who is from maybe a marginalized community, from a socioeconomic point of view, they might be incredibly talented, but they might not have access to finances. But I'm only able to do that if I build those solid foundations of the rest of the business being able to support it. And I think what we do when we're in services, certainly within education, certainly when we see kids who have potential, be it from a performance perspective or just from an engagement perspective, if you know that you're going to have a kid that's going to turn up and be so engaged, and that's going to provide them their outlet for the week and their creativity for the week and whatever, you're going to want to help them. So it's almost your duty as a business owner to create those solid foundations of finances and solid business so that you can do that.
Yeah.
So you can say, right, actually I have so many sponsored spaces within these sets of classes, and you don't have to advertise that. I don't talk about the people that I sponsor in, but that's something that we do. And having the healthy business allows me to have that happen. So you've almost kind of got to keep your blinkers on for a bit whilst you build, and then think, no, the aim is to have X amount of sponsored spots.
Yeah. It's that seeing the much bigger, broader picture, isn't it? Build a really strong, healthy, profitable business. And then you're in the position to be able to do really great charitable things if that's what you choose to do.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great lesson for everyone today, or just a thought for people to go out and think about. They struggle to put their prices up every year. They struggle to charge what they should be charging, and if you do it for the good of the school, so that you're building this strong, financially successful business, then just look at all the amazing things that you can afford to do when you've taken care of that and yourself and your family first. So what a great testament to that. And I know that's exactly what you have done, and so well, Dani, which is just awesome. And the other thing that you have done so well that I kind of watch with beady little eyes, because I think there's so much to learn from each other, is built the most incredible community. Like, your community is like no other community. And I know that all comes from purpose and what you're doing, because what you're doing is so good. But, we also have our communities, and I work hard to try and teach my dance school owners how to build the community. And I have a saying that most of them are probably sick of hearing me say now, but, the saying is, they come for the class, but they stay for the community. And I have dancers that danced for years and years and years that probably don't even want to dance anymore, but they can't bear the thought of not being around their community, their friends, their family, the events we put on. It's so huge. Like, you have people follow you. I mean, you're known as the Queen Bee, which is really interesting, because I've got a similar thing going on in my branding as well. I call all my dance studio owners the Queen Bees, because they're all looking after their own colonies. But the community that you have built, so that people don't just want to follow you and buy your services and your products, but just want to be a part of that. How could my dance school owners create that really strong sense of community so people want to stay in the dance school for years and years?
I think the first thing is to really understand your values, not just as a person 100%, but as an entity. So if I think about IATQB, stands for I am the Queen Bee. Actually, it's nothing to do with me. It's everything to do with success being a birthright, right? So I was annoyed when I found out that the Queen was born the Queen, God rest her soul, but the royalty's born into royalty, and some of us aren't. I was born on the council estate of Preston, like things like addiction and domestic abuse and, poor money mindset and all of that sort of working hard for like high volume, low value work was just like what we were born into. And the phrase I am the Queen Bee is actually a reclamation statement for success, right? That our birthright, if we think we're all here for a human experience, whether you are a street sweeper or whether you are a king, you are all born here for a human experience. And I believe that we're all entitled to abundance in whatever that looks like for you, be it more time with your family, more money, more sex, I don't know, whatever it is for you. And once I was able to articulate my value set, it's very easy then for people to see that within themselves. So one of the ways that I built community was by live streaming. So before I created my speaking business, before I created the Fly Anyway Foundation, I was a singer full time. So prior to that, I'd worked in corporate. I'd worked for some incredible companies, Jaguar Land Rover, Coffin Warehouse, so on and so forth. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to create independence, financial independence. I didn't want the glass ceiling of a wage and what have you. And when we own businesses, often that's, one of the things that we want is the relinquishment of that kind of glass ceiling of earning. And so I became a singer full time. And this is why speaking to you and knowing your incredible audience, that I had a teacher who took me under their wing. Like I was one of their sponsored spots, very, very early doors. So I could totally feel where everyone's at, where that's concerned. So I started to go live. So I put my phone on my dashboard. I didn't want to play, for those of you that are performers as well as school owners, I didn't want to play dressing room roulette anymore. So I'm going from pub to club, and they're putting me in cellars, broom cupboards, they're putting me in disabled toilets, whatever it is, to go and get ready. I was like, no, I'm just going to put my makeup on in my car. I'm going to lock my door. I'm going to go live. So in case anybody, if I go missing or someone hijacks the car, I'm live. So everything's documented.
I'm here, come save me.
Right. I'm a Blackpool seafront. There's some guy knocking on my window. That. These are the sorts of things that used to happen on these lives that I used to do. Put my makeup on and talk to people about what was happening, about where I was going, not just kind of huffing and puffing and saying nothing, but actually communicating with people that would follow me. People are crazy. They would just watch me put my makeup on, but they would come along because I was live and then stay for the conversation. And what I would start to do is introduce people to each other. So people would show up to these lives on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever I'm putting my makeup on and having a chat, and you'd see familiar faces. So I would connect them. Oh, Joe, you're watching along. You should really speak to Sam. Sam does X, Y, and Z. And I made a point of knowing who the grassroots of my community was in the first instance. And I became a sort of a conduit. And that's kind of how I remain now, is that as the community grows, I learn who people are and try to connect them. So instead of trying to sell them anything, my products and services are there for them to come and engage with if that's what they want. And I am a showcase for that in everything that I do. But actually, the phrase "we all do well when we all do well" is an underpinning value set. So when I share that consistently through my copy, messaging, PR, everything that I do, I eat, live and breathe my values. That our kindness is our superpower, for example. Kindness isn't a weakness, it's our superpower. We have conversations that matter. We fail forward. All of these are documented values that I have, that I eat, live and breathe. And so people can see consistently that I am always living within my value set. They will never find me where I'm sat outside of my value set. And that's quite compelling. And when you know that as a school, as a person, as a teacher, when you know what your values are and you articulate that, then it's easier then for people to come closer to you because they can identify that that's what they want to be a part of. So I think really understanding your values is really key to creating a community.
So I thought I would just share with you guys today the planners that I have produced for dance school owners, because these are flying out of Amazon like hotcakes. And if you don't have yours yet, then all you have to do is pop to Amazon and type into the search Deborah Laws, and all 3 books will come up. So the ultimate dance business planner I designed for you so that you had a little bit of a Deborah on your desktop. The planners are full of business training, tips, motivational quotes, things to do at the start of the month, things to do at the end of the month, ways in which you can plan out your marketing and your retention, and they are selling all over the world. So go to Amazon, grab your #1 best-selling Ultimate Dance Business Planner and enjoy mapping out the growth for your studio. Yeah, and the thing is, and this is what I say to people as well, and you've just completely backed that theory up, you then attract the people that have the same values. People like people that are like them.
Yep.
So if you're saying, I'm this person, this is what I am about, this is my ethos, this is what my dance school stands for, and you say them, shout it loud and clear from the rooftops in every way you possibly can, people will hear that and they'll either be repelled. Oh, no, that's not for me. That's not what I'm looking for. Amazing. That's the perfect result for everybody. Get rid of the people that don't share your values. They're only ever going to be troublemakers, moaners, complainers, unsatisfied. And just attract the people. Like it's like a honeypot, isn't it? Just attract the people that like your honey, your classes, your ethos, your school. And it makes life blimmin' easy for you as a business owner when you've got like-minded people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also it's okay for people not to be aligned with you. I think that's a real early doors learned that is worthwhile, really taking into your heart and trusting that because of what I'd experienced as I was growing up, because of what I'd experienced in my intimate partner relationships, in my friendships, at work, I had this real fear of rejection, and that I wanted everybody to like me. I just wanted to work with everybody. And they say when you're building a business that, you've got a niche, you've not got to know exactly who you want to work with. I was like, I want to work with everybody. I want to help the world. I kind of really had that, delusions of grandeur about me. But Dieter von Teese says, is this quote that you might be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, but someone might not like peaches, and that's okay. They might like bananas or avocados or whatever, but it's your job just to be the best peach you can be. And then the people that like peaches are going to come and have a bit, right? And that's, once I kind of got to grips with that, and then you're not fighting somebody to like you, and because that's a complete waste of energy. If somebody just doesn't get it, like I come across as quite an extrovert. I come across as quite as an extrovert because I'm a performer and my job is performance. But actually, I mean, we met in a business setting, right? Yeah. And I wasn't, and I dressed to be noticed in that it strikes a conversation. I'm not a wallflower in terms of how I look, but actually in terms of energy, I like to kind of weigh up, am I safe in this environment? Am I right in the right position in this environment, and so on and so forth. So I'm quite sort of reflective in the moment when I find myself in different places. And when you understand yourself, it just becomes easier, I think.
Yeah. And you know what I'm always trying to say to people, because I do think there is a sense of, we've got to try and be everything to everybody and please 100% of people all the time, which we all know, all of us know, you can't do that in life. We all know that saying. But I find that a lot of my dance school principals, a lot of my studio owners do still try and do that. And I'm constantly trying to say, you don't need to be everything to everybody. Just be more of yourself and the right person comes along. Now, those of you that aren't watching on YouTube and are listening to this podcast, you won't necessarily be able to see Dani. And in fact, Dani is not in her full regalia today.
I am not in my full regalia today. I'm enjoying a little bit of comfy time today.
Absolutely. But, for those of you that haven't seen Dani, she's just a stunning, gorgeous person. She's covered in tattoos. She's Northern. She's got red hair. She loves to wear big, bright colors. Like, she stands out as this, wow, look at this woman. And what I love about her is that she just says, this is me, and I can amplify myself even more if you like. Like, people only need to Google you and they will find you running around a stage dressed in your underpants or as a poo. Or have you not got a poo costume? I'm sure I've seen a poo costume.
Do you know what? I wish I'd have had the foresight to sit here in my poo costume and have a conversation with you about that.
You didn't know that was going to come up today. So Dani's she's not trying to be mediocre and beige in order to try and not offend anyone or not attract everybody. She is just like, I am just going to be more and more and more of me and myself. And the people that love that will just love me. And those that don't will go and find someone that teaches people to speak on stages that is more beige, or that is more this, or that is more that, or is more, corporate, or whatever it is. And I try and say that to my lovely guys and say, you don't have to teach all the things that everybody else is teaching. You don't have to do all the things, the competitions, the shows, the exams. If you don't want to do that, don't do it. If you want to be completely different, all the better, you know. And I think we do all fall into a trap sometimes of, but if I do that, then maybe some people won't like that.
Yeah, I think for me, the reason why I do the things that I do on stage and the things that I do in the events that I run and in the social media, in my social media, is I like to show the people that are sort of attracted to the way that I work, the limits to which they can push themselves, the limits to which they can amplify themselves. And it might not be that they want to turn themselves all the way up and wear a poo suit or a unicorn, whatever it is, dance around in their underwear or sing or, you know, whatever it is that I'm doing. But what it does, it kind of sets the benchmark of possibility. And I think that as an educator, as a teacher, as a performer, as a studio owner, as a school owner, your job is to teach the benchmark of possibility, but for the thing that you love, for the thing that you truly love. Like, how lucky we are that we get to work within the arts. Because, like, look, when the pandemic happened, what was the first thing that everybody turned to? They turned to art. They turned to creativity because they couldn't do anything else, right?
Yeah.
We are the keepers of performance. We are the keepers of creativity. And once we start to remember just how important it is, the work that you do, think about what you love within that work and then continue to amplify it. And then your job is to show the bar of possibility to those young people and to those adults and to whoever it is that you're working with. When you show them the bar of possibility, they then start to blossom. They then start to become the lighthouse. They then start to become the honeypot. And we have this incredible opportunity within our respective spaces to change lives. And that sounds like, oh gosh, that sounds like a big thing for whenever it is that you're listening. But it really does. When you set the bar of potential and you see people around you moving towards that potential, they're carrying themselves in the world differently. They're carrying themselves on stage differently. They understand themselves better. They're connected to their bodies in a different way. Like, how incredible is that? It's our job to be amplifying ourselves and amplifying what we love and setting that bar for possibility.
Yeah. And I think wrapped up in all of that, and what the word that's coming up for me is just confidence. You know, the more confident you are leading your colony, your bees, the more confident they're going to become. And of course, in the singing industry, the dance industry, you know, the confidence is one of the biggest things that we gift people, you know, helping to nurture that confidence over the years. And so I think doing it through a creative channel is what's just so lovely, because we're not trying to build confidence by teaching someone to be better at maths, or, you know, to me, creativity is childlike. You know, we're incredibly creative as children. And we probably are at our most creative when we're kids. You know, for me, it was dance. For you, you probably spent your life singing, running around your lounge, singing and dancing in front of the TV.
And a hairbrush in the mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Singing for the cat.
Absolutely. Anyone that would listen, I'm sure. For us, it's dance. You know, I spent years as a child putting on a record when we used to have record players and just dancing in my lounge, creating shows, making people sit and watch me, choreographing, improvising. You know, the joy that I had through that creative outlet was incredible. And I think to be able to take that through into business and still be able to teach confidence through a creative channel is just fabulous. But I think, you know, the point being made here is to just be more of you, because the more authentic you are, the more people will see, love, and be attracted to that.
Yeah. And I think it's worth asking yourself the question and holding a little bit of space for yourself to understand really what that is, because I don't think we stop and ask ourselves that question. For me, in the job that I do, in the role that I play out on social media, in the role that I play out in the media, it's my job to ask myself that question all the time, because I have to embody it and then teach it. But I don't think enough of us spend enough time going, actually, then who am I? Actually, what is it that I love? What is it about this space? And really get deeply connected to it, because it really does make a difference. It really does start to move your confidence in the right direction. Remember that it is, again, our job as educators to instill confidence. The best way we can do that is be confident ourselves. And we are often the least confident in our field. We'll either be looking out and comparing ourselves. We will be, not thinking we're enough. We'll be experiencing imposter syndrome, for example. And actually what we need to do is understand what confidence is. And confidence isn't about being introvert or extrovert. Confidence is about knowing. And the more you know, and the first level of this is to first know thyself, right? To know yourself is to spend some time going, okay, what is important to me? What do I know? What do I know about myself? And that is, again, a great foundation on which to build your own confidence in terms of business growth, in terms of making sure that your marketing is dealt with correctly, making sure that you're talking about the right things to the right people at the right time so that your businesses can grow and so that your schools can grow. First, know thyself is a really important thing. Spend some time thinking, what's important, and that confidence, that foundation for confidence, that's you can build on that from there.
I love that. And this is actually leads me on to a really interesting side to this. When somebody absolutely loves what they do, they get up every day and they just cannot wait to go out and do their job because, as we talked about right at the beginning, they do feel like they're on purpose. This is what they were here to do. Here's the interesting question. How does one balance wanting to just do that and be involved in it and wrapped up in it 24 hours a day when you also have family, husband, relationships? Like, this is something I've really struggled with for years, particularly in the last few years since I pivoted to being a full-time business coach. Because you've got a lovely family, you've got commitments, you've got a life outside of Dani Wallace. Where do you stop? How do you stop? How do you create that happy balance, as whatever it is? It doesn't have to be balanced. It just has to be something that feels right and is happy. How do you do that?
So for anyone that can't see, I'm like smiling really big. This is something that it's a work in progress. So I am lucky that I work with my husband. My husband works in the business, so we spend quite a lot of time together. And that has sort of forced us to look at how we communicate. It's forced us to, I don't know, forced us, but it's encouraged us to, work out, power dynamics. If I'm like the sort of CEO and he's really support function based and design based, like how does that work in the dynamics of the marriage? So it's given us opportunities, I guess, to look at our relationship in ways that maybe we wouldn't if I was going out and he was going out and doing a 9 to 5 and coming back home and having that time separate from each other. So I'm lucky that I get to spend that time with him and be connected with him in that way. I have to be very, very conscious about the protection of my time. And when we were saying right at the beginning of our conversation about maintaining boundaries around, what I'm able to do for free and what I'm not able to do for free, the same is around my time. So I've got to really consider what is my protected time. So as best I can, I try to protect my weekends above all else. When I came out of singing full time, obviously that was every weekend that I was required to work. I made the decision that when I was going to work in this industry, that my Friday afternoon through to Monday morning, as best I possibly could, was going to remain protected time. And during that isn't just about family time as well. Some of that's got to be for me. I got to a point a few months ago, I was like, I just wanted everyone to leave me alone. Like kids leave me alone, husband leave me alone, family leave me alone, friends. I just don't want to speak to anyone because I was so overwhelmed with everything that I was doing. I'd put too many layers on, and I was in give for everyone all the time. Nobody wanted to speak to me unless they wanted something from me, whether they wanted me to deliver training, whether they wanted me to feed them, whether they wanted me to do the shopping. It was all, I was doing nothing to give back to myself. And it's really important to carve the time out. And it's not selfish. Like, rest is so important. And there's different types of rest as well. Like I did a live about this just the other day, that it isn't just about physical rest. social rest, emotional rest, mental rest, spiritual rest, to think about what is it, it's sensory rest. I get really overwhelmed. I've got ADHD. So from a sound perspective, sometimes things get too much. I need a bit of quiet, or I need to be around people if I need to fill up my social battery. I don't necessarily need to sleep. So checking in with yourself and understanding what are your needs. And if you prioritize them, you are going to be better at everything else. So I'm going to be a better mum. I'm going to be a better wife. I'm going to be a better friend. I'm going to be a better coach. I'm going to be a better mentor, better producer, better everything if I am healthy, if I am rested in some way, shape or form, if I am allowing myself to live outside of my business, to remember that I'm a human being having a human experience. And yes, I love what I do, but I also really like getting up early in the morning and sitting having a brew and not talking to anyone.
And this is so funny that we've literally had this conversation now, because this comes off the back of 3 days ago, me coming back from Bali. So I decided that my business, obviously the situation I'm in now, my business supports the whole family. And like yourself, I give. And I don't need to have expensive this or expensive that or da-da-da. But what I do need once a year is for my business to afford to send me on a retreat just for myself. It's just a week where I, exactly as you just said, take care of self, but also I reconnect with myself, because I think sometimes you just get so full of giving to everybody else. You become like little fragments of everyone and everything that you're doing, the daily things, and you actually don't have the time to go inward and just remind yourself of who you are and what you're here for, and love yourself and be grateful. And I spend a whole week, selfishly or not selfishly, I don't see it as selfish. I know you don't either. But I know that other people would look at that and go, how can you spend all that money and go on a holiday by yourself when you haven't taken your family with you? I know some people really struggle with that. And I can appreciate that. And I can understand that. Doesn't mean my family don't get a holiday. Like, I have to be able to afford a holiday for them as well. This isn't just me. But what it is just, I do recognize that I can only give so much. I can only give the best of myself if I'm taking care of myself. And for some people, that means going out with their girlfriends once a week. For some people, it means going and buying a nice new handbag. For me, it means taking myself off, having a week on my own, somewhere in the world, preferably gorgeous, hot, beautiful, spiritual, cultural, all those things. And learning about me, because the other thing I find that's really important on these retreats is that I have some form of personal growth. Like, every time I go, I set aside something that's going to give me an opportunity to learn and grow on a sort of spiritual side. And I think it's so important that people that are in similar situations as us, as are all my listeners, that they don't see that as being selfish.
No, it's a necessity. Now, not everyone's in a position to whisk themselves off to Bali and what have you, but imagine if you was to give yourself a staycation somewhere, or an Airbnb somewhere, or even a flipping travel lodge, if you're able to take yourself out of context to be. And what comes up when you do that? So in the first instance, you've got to think about stopping distance as well. So if I'm going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, my stopping distance is, if I'm putting the brakes on, then I definitely need a couple of days. I need a day to stop feeling guilty. I need a day to stop feeling bored. Like, the best stuff happens on the other side of being bored. I get really antsy on day 2 because I felt all day the first day feeling guilty. I shouldn't be here. I should be being productive. I should be helping people. My family should be with me, so on and so forth. Then the next day is like, oh, but I'm bored. I don't know what to do with myself now. And then by day 3, it's, this is space. But I needed 3 days to put the brakes on enough to have the stopping distance enough. So just consider as well, if you are considering doing this for yourself, that you're going to need some stopping distance. Sometimes an afternoon just ain't going to cut it.
Yeah, it takes more than just a couple of hours to breathe and recover and calm as well. I think we are so hectic in our lives, so busy and hectic in our lives, that we don't have any calm. We don't have any peace. We don't have any, what's that noise? oh, it's nothing. Like,
Right? What does that sound? That's novel.
it just doesn't happen, does it? And so, yeah, I think I do think it's unhealthy to go at a million miles an hour, because at some point, something is going to break.
Yeah, I was in a position last year, Deb, where that was definitely going to happen. I put myself under so much pressure to elevate. So I have an event called Be Inspired, to elevate that to the standard to which I hold myself. So bear in mind, I've been in huge production shows from when I was like 14, 15 years old. I know what a great event looks like. And I also know that my business is very young. It takes 3 years to really get an event going to any kind of capacity. But I take a major leaps event on event. I run it twice a year. And we jumped up to going to working in a stadium and what have you. And I put myself under so much pressure to move fast that I felt like I was hurtling towards a heart attack. Like I could feel it happening. And one of my best friends actually threw me in a lake, like didn't actually pick me up and throw me in a lake. She does, she facilitates like cold water dips, like Wim Hof type stuff.
Yeah.
If anyone doesn't know, go and have a look at breath work, cold water therapy and Wim Hof. And she was like, you need to stop. I've spoken to your team. They've cleared you a day. You're coming on this thing. And actually that was a real wake up call. I needed an intervention from my friends to make me stop. And it was I went on the cold water dip and broke a little bit. Like I spent a lot of it crying and feeling guilty for A, stopping, and B, for having done that to myself when I'm spending all of my time telling other people, you've got to look after yourself, you've got to put yourself as a priority, so on and so forth. And it's like the cobbler's shoes. When you've got cobblers who make shoes, often you look down at their feet and their shoes are not the best shoes. And we've got what's the word? A responsibility to ourselves to make sure that we have got a good pair of shoes. Like we are Louboutin, we are Jimmy Choo, like that's what we've got to consider for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And, taking care of ourselves is, if you haven't got your own oxygen mask on, you're not going to be able to save the world, are you? Yeah. And it is hard. I think it's a work in progress for all of us. I've just could sit and talk to you all day, and I know everybody else would love to keep listening to you all day. But
I'll
I know
have to do it again another time, Dan.
I know you have to keep saving the world, so I can't selfishly just keep you all to myself. But what I do love to finish with is a few random questions that I just throw out, and you have to answer the first thing that comes into your head.
Oh, I love these.
Is this okay? Are we good?
Yes. Let's do it.
Okay. Easy one to start with. Favorite ice cream?
Chocolate fudge brownie, Ben and Jerry's.
Oh my gosh, that's just amazing. Favorite mountain view?
Favorite mountain view is, it's not really a mountain, but Rivington Pike in the Ribble Valley is beautiful.
Okay, gorgeous. Favorite business book? I'm allowed to. So the first one, the one that changed my life from an events perspective and from a bookings perspective, was Daniel Priestley Oversubscribed. That was there was a lot of light bulbs that went off, and also highly recommend that if you have a school or if you have a studio and you want to fill up and you've got classes to fill, like getting oversubscribed is what we want, right? So that's an incredible book. Highly recommend. Amazing. Haven't heard of that one. I should be out to get that one. If you could spend 15 minutes with somebody from history that's no longer with us, who would it be?
Do you know what? I would have loved to have spent 15 minutes with Tina Turner.
Oh, my last podcast guest said the same person, but she's also a singer. She's also an ex-professional singer. So
so it was one of my. So What's Love Got to Do with It is one of my favorite films, and harrowing. Like I remember watching it being very, very young and being quite not traumatized, but thinking, oh my gosh, this woman has been through all of this. But then found myself not in a similar position. I'm not Tina Turner, but from a domestic abuse point of view and what she survived and how she came back to self, and she left with nothing and then built everything back up again. I just think the tenacity of the woman, and even though I wasn't on the same scale, is essentially what I did. I ended up homeless and building back up from nothing. I would have loved to have just thank her, I think, as opposed to pick her brain. I just wanted to thank her, and I'm sad that I didn't get the chance.
As an inspiration, or yeah. And what about if you did have the chance to speak to someone? So 15 minutes with someone that's still here, who would that be?
Oh, who do I really want to speak to? There's loads of people that I want to speak to. So I've got stuff to do. Like I need to get in Parliament and all sorts of stuff. I'd love to speak to Lady Gaga. I would really love to speak to Lady Gaga. Again, she was a grassroots performer, dancer, piano player, whatever, on the New York scene. And she worked all the way through like the gay bars, that she's done everything. Like people see who she is now and see all the wacky stuff that she's done. Actually, she was a grassroots performer, and she has done everything with her teeth into it. And I just think that her tenacity and her business acumen is incredible. I want to pick her brains and give her a big hug.
Okay, last thing. What is the next thing on your bucket list that Dani Wallace absolutely categorically must achieve or experience?
So we're going global. So we're taking Be Inspired to New York. Well, either to New York or LA. We're just firming up like which place we're going to do it. I'm speaking it into fruition. It might actually be LA now, and also Sydney. So we want to go Australia, and we want to go kind of both ends of the kind of scale. So yeah, we're heading for Be Inspired to either be in New York or LA. It's looking like LA, and Sydney in Australia.
Wow. Absolutely love that. No stopping you. And of course, everybody that's part of your world gets to, that gets rubbed off on them, and they feel empowered. And I'm so excited to be working with you and speaking at your event and learning from you. And I'm sure everyone that's listened today has thoroughly enjoyed, hearing your experiences, your wisdom, and also had a little bit of Dani rub off on them. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for chatting to me today. I've absolutely loved it. And all the best with Sydney and taking over the world.
I'm taking everybody with me, so everyone get along for the ride.
Thanks, Dani.
Thanks for having me, Deb.
So I wanted to quickly tell you a little bit about Showtime Circus. This is run by my good friend Jess, who has created an incredible circus bolt-on franchise for your dance school. Because aerial and circus performance skills has become a really desirable skill set for choreographers and casting directors. And so Showtime Circus offers the opportunity to buy a franchise package, which will give you all of your necessary equipment, training from experienced staff, syllabus plans, ongoing support, and business support to launch your new franchise. It will really energize your school with increased revenue streams, new student opportunities, and of course, bring all the fun of the circus to your school. So do go and visit showtimecircus.co.uk to find out what the new buzz is around circus skills.